Welcome to the Lair, a place where interesting people you may know tell you things you didn't. So grab a chair and your favorite vice and get comfortable. There are no rules in the Lair, but there is Laura Babcock. You know her from TV, and she is not into media monogamy. Let's find out who else is in the Lair.
If you're just joining us, we're in the Lair cast with Andrea Kovacs. She's with Momstown. And you know, Andrea, you've been sitting in the Lair here all evening. And we've had the city manager in, we've had Carrie Gray from the Y108 Morning Show. Different guys, wouldn't you say? Different experiences?
Definitely.
What was your take on those two?
Very entertaining. I'm actually sitting in the corner feeling a little bit perturbed because a lot of very smart, fast talkers. And I tend to be far more contrived. I was just talking to your husband and I was saying that my background is in advertising.
Yeah.
And I tend to have the opportunity to formulate something before I put it out there.
Right.
So it's a little nerve-wracking for me.
Well, but don't be worried about it. I mean, that's partly why we ply our guests with alcohol, right? It kind of takes the edge off a little bit. It's a wine-fueled experience. You know what? One of our guests said at the end of an interview where he said too much, "Shit, is that why you gave me drinks?" We're like, maybe. It's part of it. But for those guests who are, you know, a little nervous about the environment, it helps too. So Andrea, back to your Laircast. It's kind of an informal environment here. But one of the reasons why I asked you to be on here was not because I was concerned you'd be too contrived with your words, because Twitter is a fast-moving environment, and you are always so quick with your responses to whatever issue of the day or whatever else that I happen to be tweeting out or other people are. You're very active on it, and that's really a medium I find for people who are quick with their speech and ready to have an opinion. So do you find that it's liberating for you, given that you feel a little more contrived with the oral tradition, to use a Carrie Gray statement?
I do. I am a quick thinker, but I like to be able to have the delete option. And there's many times where I have my finger on the button and I think
really?
twice
Even
before
on
I
Twitter?
send that. Absolutely.
Really, eh?
And I think you have to. You have to be controlled. You have to watch what you're saying. I represent too many people to be that off the cuff.
And the people that you represent, would they still be able to listen to this Laircast after that 2 minutes with Carrie Gray?
Absolutely, because I don't feel that I would be judged by the company that I keep. Right?
So you're with Momstown, Hamilton. And you know what? I've got to be honest with you. I've never gone to play groups or been part of a mom's organization, because when I had between my kids, my career had been so busy that I never thought that it was something that I wanted or needed to do. Mm-hmm. But after seeing the stuff that you're doing and the comments that you have, and maybe this is where you got to me and my ego would explain it, when you asked me to once a week do a chat on your website about what women should be or moms should be interested in terms of current affairs. Mm-hmm. I love that, right? Because to me, when I watch the Mums show, the morning show, once in a blue moon, I'm up at 4 a.m. and I turn that on, or whatever time, 5 a.m., it makes me want to slit my throat. I cannot stand watching women talk about how to organize your craft corner. I can't do it. Yes. I don't relate to it. It's like that is like number 75 on my list of priorities if I had a craft corner, right? So when I see that kind of mum programming, it makes me feel as a professional woman that I can't relate to the mums movement.
And we do all of that, Laura, but the truth of the
doesn't
matter
define
is
you.
there are
It doesn't
more
define you.
layers to a mum than the craft corner, right?
Please speak to that, because the morning show, mom show, doesn't seem to get past that.
Yeah, I honestly don't think that I ever would have imagined myself being the crafty mom. That person that, you know, I'm sitting there and considering, you know, how I'm going to entertain my children all day. Mm-hmm. But now that I find myself in that position, I enjoy it immensely. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's fabulous to have something that engages us beyond that. One of the great things I love about Momstown is it facilitates those activities with the children. Mm-hmm. But we offer that as an avenue to get the mothers together to talk and to connect and to build the community. Mm-hmm. Because quite frankly, many of them, if they didn't have that motivation, if they didn't have their kids to get them out of the house, there's a pretty good chance that they probably wouldn't. Well, you know, there's so many moms that I wouldn't know if it weren't because of our kids.
Well, you know what? Rob stayed at home for a year with our second child. And there were days where I'd come home when Rob's hair was like 7 feet high and his eyes had that crazy glazed look. And it was like if he didn't get out of the house immediately, he was going to lose his mind. And I have to figure that a lot of moms are in that position, right? They're used to having an active exterior life, and your kids are consuming. You know, our kids were sick over the holidays. We didn't leave the house for 7 days except to go to the hospital. Like, it's a different world when you have little children. And so you help women get out of the house, you help them connect. But what I find interesting is, as I said, was you're interested in getting them talking about current affairs. You know, there's possible, there's some issues coming up. There's the time that we're doing this Laircast is right before the Drummond report comes out provincially. And they may, rumor has it, recommend cutting the new all-day kindergarten program. It seems to me that mums have such a vested interest, have such a powerful voice. Forget about the fact that they are the ones who do all the major purchases for the family. They make a tremendous amount of decisions in the family, and yet because they're so busy and because there's not a lot of avenues like yours that tries to educate them on these other things they don't have time to pay attention to, these decisions are happening without their input necessarily. So, you know, why did you decide that your mums needed to kind of get out of that bubble and get into these other issues?
Because I think, honestly, moms want the information, but I believe that they are so absolutely consumed with their day-to-day, and they're exhausted.
Yeah.
And so they don't have the time or the energy or the desire, really, to reach out and to collect the information and find what they need. And so I find if we can make it easier, if we can deliver it to them in such a fashion that it engages them and they're interested in the issues that they really need to know about and care
they need
about.
to advocate for themselves about.
Absolutely.
Because the decision-making is happening outside of their purview, and they're the ones that have the direct experience. They're the end user. They're the authority on it in many cases. You know, when I heard the rumor of it, I immediately tweeted out, "Dear McGuinty, don't lose your legacy and use this Drummond report as an excuse to cut kindergarten." And my first thought was, groups like Mumstown and your national movement, you know, whether or not that's an issue that you would take on, you have tremendous power commercially, tremendous power policy-wise. Is that something that you ever see your group doing, is educating these women to the point where they might advocate for themselves or their issues?
I think that women are learning that they can be very powerful advocates for themselves and their children, and that they have a very strong voice. And I think what we need to do is teach them that they can use that to instill change. And I don't think they've really known that. One of the reasons why I love what I do is because I see the power in mom.
Yeah.
I see, you know, one of the surface areas of our business, Mumstown, is, you know, seeing the mom as, you know, that decision maker in the household. She is she's got the purchasing power. But ultimately she is the main influencer in her children's lives.
Absolutely.
She's forming them and growing them, and she's creating the next tomorrow for us. And above that, if we can help her understand the issues and know what she needs to care about, what's happening out there, not telling her how to care or what opinion to form, but at least providing her the information so that she can form her own opinion, then yes, she can go out and she can then have
Lord.
an
You're red in the
impact.
face
No,
at this point.
I just so that you know, I'm not playing devil's advocate. Let me tell you
truly
my.
feels
I'm married to a devil's advocate.
But
I
he
don't
truly
think-
feels what,
No,
what
no,
he's
I-
about to say he truly feels.
No, I'm going to tell you a story to express the validity of the point I want to make. So, 17 years ago, when I was a single father, custodial parent of a 2-year-old, some church on Upper Wellington had a big sign that said, "We love Jesus and single moms are welcome." I used to drive by it on the way to work every day and go, "Single moms are welcome?"
I thought the Jesus part offended you as a Jew.
No, and I've been listening to all this, and it's all wonderful. I love my mom. That's just great. But what is the opposite of misogynistic? Momstown? Why am I sitting here? This isn't about children. This is about moms.
It's about empowering mom to be able to advocate. My discussion on this is empowering moms to be able to advocate for their kids' future. Because I feel like moms, it's kind of like when you look at a populace that's fed crappy food and TV all day, they become fat and lazy and they let their government get away with shit that they shouldn't. I think that when moms are caught in this exhaustion bubble for 10 years, things happen that public policy, other decisions happen that they should be involved in and they're not.
This is so bizarre. I agree with all that you're saying, but in this environment,
The Laircast?
and for me,
Because we're drinking, we can't talk about mother
no,
issues?
it's
Or
not
what?
the booze. that if we were sitting around here all with our dicks hanging out talking about male issues,
We just
in the
did
most,
that with Carrie
no,
for
in the
the
most
last hour.
stereotypical way,
Right? Yeah, we just talked about dicks for the last hour, yes. And other things, but yes.
You more than you, but Laura, you certainly made all-day kindergarten a mom issue. It's not a mom issue; it's a parent issue.
Well, Rob can make that case for the dads. I'm only a mom. I can't represent men.
Okay.
Well, you make the case for guys then.
No, I'm not. I'm just I don't understand what this.
Start a dad's exactly. A mom over here. She could have been a dad saying it. Just said start a dad's town.
My children are grown. Don't care
Exactly. The
anymore.
boy, as you call him, is a wonderful young man.
I just am. This isn't even as much of a complaint as it's an observation of women talking about the importance of traditional female roles. It's blowing my mind.
It's not necessarily the importance of traditional female roles. It's the fact that as a woman, we understand the needs of other women, especially those who, and there is no such thing as a traditional female role anymore. There is no such thing as a traditional family anymore.
Exactly.
My own husband was a stay-at-home caregiver for our children while I pursued my career for the last 2 years. I do.
Give him a big hug. It was a tough year, eh, honey? But you're an awesome guy. Okay,
So you're right, they are parent issues. But we have a very
Daddy to
unique
daddy love.
perspective in supporting the needs of the women and understanding where they're coming from.
So is
and
your
that's
frustration, Lauren, that there aren't these kind of supportive environments popping up for single stay-at-home
Not
dads?
at all. Not at all. It's,
what's your issue?
It's that I thought women today in the 21st century
Right.
are not defined by their ability to breed. That a women's empowering website would be about, I'm Superwoman and my career
that's what I'm
and getting
saying.
back to
So
it
that-
because even in spite of the fact I
But
made
this is
babies.
what I'm saying. The fact that she asked me to come on and talk about current affairs on a weekly cast tells me that that's exactly it. It's saying to these women, if you've made the choice to stay home, there is other stuff going on that you're powerful about that you need to be aware of. You know me well. I don't live the life of a traditional mom necessarily.
That I know.
Right. So when I've never been a part of these groups because of the same stereotype that you have, that it's a little bit of a whatever. But when she said when I watched her on Twitter, when I bring up stuff and she responds right away, and when she asked me to tell these other moms about what I think mothers, as people with small children, should know about. Last week there were 3 stories in the news that I thought were important, like the baby in Parliament. That was a global ruling that was picked up by CNN. That was in our Parliament. That changes everything for stay-at-home moms. It gives them an opportunity to maybe bring their children to work. So things like this are not about reinforcing the traditional role of mothers. It's about saying, if you're a mother, you're a powerful force as a consumer, as a parent, as a role model, and there are things going on in this world that you need to add your voice to. Don't get caught up in this bubble of exhaustion stay-at-home stuff.
I don't know Andrea well enough to be intentionally disrespectful.
I don't know her
I
either,
just
actually.
found
I've
this
been
all
Twitter.
weird. When I Google searched Momstown, maybe it's just my computer. I got some geography-based websites
Right.
of a porn nature.
Of course you did, because that's what your server goes to. It's got deep
trained.
No, it's Momstown, right between Cougarville and Milton.
Yeah, he's been waiting all day to land that one on you. Nothing. You got some.
Okay,
laughs on it.
I said I wasn't
But
meaning to be disrespectful.
you know that
but-
your computer has a default to porn. We all know this, Lord.
Fair
Come
enough.
on. But no, I wanted you in this conversation because I knew that you'd get a little pissed about this, because you feel, and we have this conversation a lot, that generally speaking, other guys that you know that take care of their kids and try to do right by them often get the shaft by society because they're not the mom. They're not the great maternal
that
influence.
motherdom be up here
Right,
and
right.
fatherdom be right next to the checkbook.
Yeah, you've said that before.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But why aren't there groups like Dad's Towns? If
There
they're-
are. It's called Fathers for Justice, and there
Yeah?
are a bunch of angry guys who got shafted by the tender years clause of the Ontario
Yeah,
family
but
court
that's
system.
specific to an issue of
I know,
custody
but-
and child support.
But that's what the fatherhood experience is.
But
Paying
Momstown-
for it, doing as mom said.
But Momstown is a different beast than that. It's got
No,
all
I know.
kinds
I
of
checked out
different
the
areas.
website.
Yeah,
It's
so
freaky.
So why aren't there any guys' towns?
which one? Did you find the real one, or are you still talking about?
Still on the freaky
No, it was
Momstown.
all right.
Did you actually see the one that Andrea comes
Well,
from?
I stayed on it for 7 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, God, that was a long time for you.
Yeah.
But but you guys do. So how is it viable commercially? Let me put on my Larry Deani hat for a moment. How do you monetize this?
Momstown is monetized via connecting businesses with the mums who have information to share with them, have
So
sponsorships.
advertising, sales, web-based advertising?
Essentially.
You don't have to pay to be a member?
We do have membership dues. It's $45 annually for a mom to be a member.
That's almost negligible. That's like a website hosting fee or something.
Exactly. It's to
So
help.
the money comes from the I've seen the advertising on the website. People, they look at your what kind of web traffic would you get in Hamilton or other sites?
Oh, geez. We're looking at, right now, something along the lines of 24,000 page views a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you get some traffic, and so advertisers, like, it's a powerful market to get to, right?
Yes, but the really exciting part is that we offer advertisers the opportunity to provide experiential marketing mechanisms.
Oh, so they can do like focus groups and stuff like that.
Focus groups, we can do online opinion forums.
Right.
But we also we have so many offline capabilities with mums because we have the 25 events
So it's
or
kinda
more
genius
going
when
on.
you think about it, Lauren, is that you've got this group of
Oh, I'm digging it from the marketing perspective.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
as a marketing thing, you've got this group of people who are incredibly influential, both consumer and in terms of trend, and they're untapped because nobody can get them to pay attention or get them to weigh in because they're so busy.
Is busy, bogged down mom got an online enough to?
The thing is with busy mom, especially new mom, we have only so many hours in a day to make choices with what we're going to do with that time. Okay, so yes, there are a multitude of media. Yes, we may have our favorite magazine. We may have the newspaper delivered to our door. We have the TV sitting in front of us. But truth be told, when we have those few minutes of treasured time, we make very careful choices what we're doing with it. And I'm very fortunate that many women in Hamilton are choosing to spend the time with me. And they're going online and they're talking to other moms and they're sharing their lives. And then when they have the opportunity to get out of the house finally, once they've made those connections, it's a little bit like a mom dating service. But they can get out of the house.
Oh, don't say that to Lauren Lieberman. Oh my God, Andrea. I can't pull him back from that brink.
But it's a fantastic opportunity for them to build connections and make friends, because how difficult is it as adults and moms who are busy, or anybody in our lives, to go out and actually make genuine friendships? It's really
one
difficult.
thing that I think is so interesting is that, and I may or may not ever make it to a Momstown event, but I love the invites, but there have been two examples I want to share. One was on Christmas Eve when my daughter was in critical care at McMaster, and everybody's busy with their Christmas stuff. I tweeted at like 9 o'clock, it looks like I'll be spending Christmas Eve in the hospital with my daughter. And you, which I presume you've got kids, kept checking in with me to see how I was doing, even on Christmas Day. And I thought, I don't know this woman. I've never met her. I'm not part of Momstown. There's no vested interest for her. What's with, I thought it was very, very, I thought it was awesome. And I thought, you know what, if that's what the organization represents, that's pretty cool. So then yesterday I did this snarky tweet about I never got those stupid Calgon commercials in the 1970s. But I was with the kids all weekend. Rob was working and I had a bath and I'm like, oh my God, I get the commercial. And she tweets me back. She goes, trust you're not tweeting this in the bathtub. Nearly. I just finished my bath. But my point is that you seem to be very supportive and responsive, even with someone like me who you've never met. So what got you from advertising career into this building, this mom support empowerment stuff?
You are a mom. You have kids, yes?
I do.
Well, her
Yes.
husband stayed home on pat leave. I would hope so.
Could be
Are
his kids.
you not listening? Are you only hearing the stuff that you can relate back to? I'm just saying, she said that.
Like
No?
the goldfish.
Yeah.
I have 2 kids. My daughter is 7 and my son is nearly 5.
So what got you from out?
So-
Because you go to Toronto, or you were.
I was going to
that's-
Toronto working in advertising.
Yeah. So what got you to do this?
It's an interesting story because, I had, at one point in my life, decided, very, very young, like a teenager, just had this epiphany one day that we had the capability to change our world, our immediate world, through the minds of children. Understanding that at that
How
point in
so?
time, that as they grew and you shaped their minds, that they have the ability to then become the new adults. And so if we had the influence over those children, that we gave
New
them...
adults. I love that.
Yes, and we built them into the type of people that could have influence in their world and change their world, then that was power. And as I went along, my aspirations kind of diverted, and I ended up going into business advertising and marketing, and very passionate in pretty much everything that I do. I apply myself vehemently.
Yeah.
And so I built a career. And I had associates, and I worked a ton of overtime, and I partied like crazy. But at the end of the day,
in advertising and marketing and media, you party? What's
at
up
the end
with
of the
that?
day, I came home and I lived in Hamilton. My associates were in Toronto. So the way I look at it is I built a career. I didn't build community.
Interesting.
Right? And so then I had my kids, and I ended up, my baby girl had colic. And
Oh, that'll be hard, eh?
yes, it was. And so I had my husband, and I had our parents, and I had our children. And okay, fine, we got by. It was wonderful. We had a tight-knit family.
Really,
But
it was wonderful with colic?
no.
No, God, I was going to
But
say.
as we
that's
go
not
on-
wonderful. That's hell.
As we go on, I have my son, and just I ended up at a crossroads in my life where I realized that, we were in a position that if anything ever happened, we did not have social supports. And I'm not talking social supports meaning healthcare or welfare or anything like that. I'm just simply talking about, if we came into a difficult time, we don't have friends to call on for help.
Yeah.
So your friends don't have kids of a comparable age? Is that the
Because
missing
I
gap?
was building a career.
Yeah, me too. All my friends.
My friends are
yeah,
working, they're
sure.
busy, they're doing their own thing, they're partying or anything else.
Right.
They weren't there beside me, walking with me and my children. And so at that point in time, I made the decision to jump in and get deeply involved in community. And I started seeking out places that I could surround myself with people of like mind. And one of those places was my local church, and the other place was Momstown. I found Momstown. It was already being run by somebody else at that point in time. And shortly thereafter, my husband had a heart attack.
Oh, my God.
And it was pretty frightening. It was the kind of situation, the way things ended up happening, that I know 100% that I could have been that woman that woke up with her husband
'Cause
dead
you're
beside
young.
her.
You're young.
He was young. He was 45 when he had his heart attack. We ended up finding out it's hereditary. But it was actually just an amazing situation in turn of events that, and extremely good health care here in Hamilton, that he was well taken care of. But through that event, I absolutely and 100% became aware of and convinced of the value of community.
Yeah.
Because I had become a part of Momstown, and in that process, women came alongside me. People were willing to look after my children. People were willing to bring me meals, and people were willing to look out for my mental well-being, my just overall care. And so it was pretty amazing. And as time went on, I decided that this is something that all women need. This is something that people who are in that.
Rob was away for a week covering the Shafia trial, and by the Friday, 5 nights with the kids, they were both sick all day. By the Friday, I was losing my mind, and I can't imagine losing your husband with children of those age. Your point on community is very well taken. If I could pick up on something you said a few minutes ago about how the new adult and changing the world through children. Are you familiar with the story in China about how they would break girls' feet at birth so that they could fit,
Binding.
that binding, that fetish thing, and they could never figure out a way of stopping it, and it was such a terrible tradition and hurt so many women. And finally, a group of mothers in a small town in China, as I understand the story, decided, if we can't change our society, we can change our sons. And so they decided consciously to teach their sons from a young age that broken bound foot were not a thing of pleasure or beauty, that they raised a generation of boys who didn't want to marry a woman with those feet. And because of that, it changed the tradition and they stopped binding women's feet. So, I mean, that's just an example of what you're talking about, I think, which is that, and it's not about programming your kids, it's about saying, there's an opportunity here to have a better world if we teach our children the right ways to be. Is that a fair statement? Did you think about that when you were daddy home with the boy?
No.
Not a thing that guys think about?
I couldn't imagine. First of all, I had I had my son ridiculously young,
Yeah.
and my contemporaries are having children now.
Yeah. Your contemporaries having children now. You're like 41.
The vast majority of my friends are
Really, eh?
are either with 5 and under or
Yeah, yes, we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
Um,
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm just saying it to be nice because
Well,
we're on air.
it
He
would have.
seems vulnerable in this chat. I have to be nice.
And no, and I am. Parenting is certainly a soft spot for me, but to even be able to look at any of my social stratosphere
Mm-hmm.
for parenting support would have been lunacy.
Yeah.
Those dorks in their early 20s could offer me nothing.
Does this sound appealing to you?
This
What she's
is-
describing?
No, my heart got a little. The whole story, and then
You seem
these
befuddled.
strangers that you made connections with online who are looking after your kids and bringing you food, like
They weren't strangers, though, because
I-
we take it from the offline into the real life, into the real
right,
world.
but they were strangers.
No, they weren't. They were my friends
But
by
you
that
didn't.
point.
You didn't meet them
Right,
through
but
organically, is what he's saying. Like they're
they're,
through the.
they're internet friends who have become real friends.
How do you make friends nowadays?
We met
And
Andrea.
it wasn't.
on the internet.
It's not a criticism on how they came to be. It's just that kind of kindness coming from any, like, that was a lovely story. Is
Yeah,
my
it really
point.
is. It's very powerful.
That is all.
She also has a marketing background. I'm just being funny.
I'm sure the story was horseshit, and it was just to
I'm just
tug
kidding.
at my.
I'm just kidding. I'm giving him an out. To,
It is
before he
not
has a
made
breakdown.
up.
No, it's very
Throwing
touching.
in the heart attack. That,
Yeah.
no, that's brilliant.
That was brilliant. Yeah, good spin.
Exactly. No, it is really touching because, yeah, like I had my own opinions and I'm sure I've shared them. My friend Soy Marie over here has 3 children. She had her kids grown. Actually, your kids were pretty much in, like, well, Maggie was really young when I first started hanging out with you. She was a toddler. Well, no, she's maybe 5 or something, 5 or 6. But I watched her take her kids through a divorce and through being a single mom and through working multiple jobs and everything else to the wonderful kids that they are today. And you know, they're out of, one of them's out of high school and doing extremely well. And watching her firsthand struggle before I ever even thought about having kids because I was building my career. How do you take what you're hearing Andrea talk about? Was that something that you would have loved to have had access to back in the day when things were really rough?
Actually, the part of what she's talking about that I'm finding myself relating to is this idea that when I was raising my kids, I felt very, I felt really pressured to be at home and to be sort of that mom that people were interested in or that I thought was expected of me. And maybe that was, you know, for a lot of people, maybe that was great, but it wasn't for me. I was doing that, but I was still longing for all the rest of it. And I used to say it, I just want to put my pantyhose on and go talk to somebody. That's the way I used to talk about it. But I didn't have the ability to do that. You know, there wasn't a mom's group out there that was talking about current affairs.
There wasn't the internet either.
No, there wasn't, you know? So, you know, I stayed at home and I kind of did what was expected of me and I pursued things in the home that interest me and I didn't have a craft corner, but yeah, I did a lot of things and I learned to sew and I read but, you know, there was this feeling that I had put aside such a big part of who I was. And I don't think ultimately that was good for me, and I certainly don't think it was good for the kids. And so the part of it that I'm picking up on is this notion that, yeah, you do go into this bubble, and you need to make it easy for those women to come out of the bubble and to continue with a big piece of what makes them, what makes them a woman besides being a mother, you know?
We want to
And
celebrate
so-
motherhood holistically and understand that it's important that mom engages her children through those senses.
Yeah.
And that, yes, may mean an arts and craft corner. Okay? I'm not your artsy mom.
Well, and you know what? I am an artist, and I have no issue with craft corners. But my issue is watching a show that, like that mom show in the morning, that seems dedicated to every cheesy stereotype of motherhood I've ever, you know, railed against.
Yes, but at the same time, we also celebrate mom with mom's nights out, where,
Yeah.
you know what, she gets to walk away
Well, you had.
I'm
when
gonna
you
leave it
invited-
all behind and
you
I'm gonna
had
go
me-
and-
You invited me one time in the summer. You're like, "Do you want to come and play Trivial Pursuit and get drunk on margaritas?" I'm like, "Now this is a group of women I could appeal." Yeah, I know. I was like, "This is better than I thought it could be." But let me throw, Lauren. Are you taking off? Or are you near Mike? No. Okay. I just I want to give you space on this one. But okay, I have to bring this up, Rob. You know what I'm about to bring up now. Have you seen the Da Vinci Code? Have you seen it? Have you seen it, Lauren?
I
Okay.
don't know that I've seen it, but I know the principle.
Well, have you seen it, Sam? Probably. The Da Vinci Code? Have you seen the movie? The whole thing is around, I mean, I don't want to get into the Catholic Church, blah, 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 but the whole thing is around the idea that what is really worship, what is really divine, if anything, is the woman's ability to recreate that, that pagan cultures worship the womb and motherhood, that the theory of the Da Vinci Code is, in fact, Mary was Jesus' wife, Mary Magdalene, and it was her womb that was what was her descendants.
The whole premise of the chevron is
Yeah.
based around
around a woman's
idolatry
womb.
of vagina.
Yeah, that's right.
It's as simple
but not
as
as a
that.
sexual thing as much as a recreation
That's
thing. I mean, you might
fantastic.
you might. Yeah. No, I'm just saying that Lauren might idolize the vagina for its other functions. The whole idea with the chevron is that it's being idolized for its ability to procreate. Listen to his Lair cast, you'll understand why I'm saying this. Only after midnight, and no kids listening out there listen to his Lair cast. But I didn't realize, and I don't know how you feel about this, Jim. Have you seen the Da Vinci Code? What do you think about the whole Star of David being the pagan woman and male symbols being combined?
I don't like talking about the Da Vinci Code at all in real terms.
Yeah,
I find it just pure fictional,
Yeah?
and it's
I just thought that was interesting, no?
yeah. No.
Let's not forget that time
Yeah?
in history, male ruled, and
Yeah.
the most important thing was keeping the bloodline going. And so if you could have a woman that could have lots of children, hopefully a male, that's what it was all about.
Sure, that's
Like
what it's
it
still
or
about.
not,
most of
that
the
was
world.
the basis of it, so.
Well, if you look at the Shafia trial that just happened, I would say a lot of the world is still in that mindset, right?
Well, that's something I'd like to ask Andrea about.
Yeah,
is the
goodness.
Shafia trial, because I wrote about it and I was critical about where are the women's groups that are standing up for these Muslim women, and I don't see it. I know they're out there, but they're awful quiet. They're fighting for every other issue, but there's hundreds, thousands of girls who are living in fear. And with all the other issues that are being taken up, this is one that's neglected. Is it too politically correct to address this issue?
I wrote that blog and she retweeted it.
Absolutely.
So it's not like they were hiding from it.
It's definitely not something that I have a fear of standing up and talking about. And I don't think that's anything that in our mom community that we would have a fear of standing up and discussing. But I also believe that in that specific community, it's not something that you can necessarily, even amongst the women, that you can necessarily barge in and say, this is the way it's going to be. Because they have a fear of talking about it. They have a fear of changing it. And so it's sort of something that you have to really step carefully.
It's hard though, I take your point on that, and I didn't intend for the tweet I made to get the coverage it got. It was just a tweet. But I think it spoke to the fact that, if I can pick up on you, Moses, I mean, who am I to have a tweet picked up, right? It's the fact that there weren't a lot of women railing about that. I mean, I watched a human rights lawyer talking about it when I was watching the trial, the verdict come out, and that's where I heard the concept of femicide and thought, she's absolutely right. This is femicide. When you kill a woman because she's a woman, it doesn't matter what culture or tribe it is. It's coming from a place of the woman being an object or inferior to the man. It's a power thing, and that's why I said what I said. But I think devoid of all that other advocacy is why something that I would say would get that kind of traction. And I think that, I was compelled to write that blog, and you retweeted that thing, but the danger is that we say, well, we don't want to step on their toes, we don't want to barge into their culture, we don't want to make them more unsafe. But at the same time, they're already unsafe, and are we doing as much as we can be doing to support those moms or those women in those situations, I don't think we are. I don't know what the answer is, but I take your argument. I just think that it still leaves them out there somehow.
Yeah, like in the media too, we quantify everything, right? When the Shafia comes up, it's like, this is isolated one here, but it's not.
I actually don't believe it's isolated.
It's not. It's rampant, but we quantify everything, and of course we don't condemn Islam. You know, I have Muslim friends. You know, they're appalled at this.
Yeah.
But let's not sit around and, you know, quantify it every time. I mean, the Catholic Church is fair game, you know, constantly attacked in the media, you know, and
Well, they've earned some of it. Let's not lie. It's not like
yeah,
it's
but
being
that's
manufactured.
but I'm just pointing out the double standard.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the Nicki Minaj the other night on the Grammys.
yeah.
Total shot at the Catholic Church. Would that happen to Islam?
Sure, and she shot.
I don't know about that, but the fact is that I think a lot of the uncomfort with dealing with stuff, and I used to on the Corn show, we talked about it every single time I did the show over 12 years. But Corn's whole thing was that nobody's willing to talk about Islam. Everybody's too politically correct. Everybody's scared of it.
Okay, but there's a difference here, and Moses, you liken it to be about criticism of Catholicism. You're not going to find anywhere in the Quran that says circumcise your women. You're not going to find anywhere in the Quran that says if they dress too funky, throw them in a lake outside of Kingston. It's not a religious issue. It's a cultural issue. And it's Sharia affiliated with the Shafi'ah.
Yeah.
It's not Islam. It's not. And
that's a mighty thing.
I condemn you for defend this argument.
I know,
Like,
I was just going to say, you've got Lauren Lieberman defending Islam. Do you know what this is costing him? the tattoo of the Star of David on his chest is
It's
going
done
to
in the name of Islam.
Right.
It's the, you know, there are these hidden messages in the surahs that are just, you know, taken completely on steroids.
I don't look at it as a religious issue. I look at it as a
but
humanity
you know what?
issue.
This is also a recent issue, right? Like if you look at, for instance, Tariq Fatah posted a picture of the university class in the 50s that was all women that graduated. No one is wearing head scarves, face coverings.
Right.
Now, 2012, all covered. There's a pressure. The climate is changing.
And you know what? Tarek called me a racist when the time I did Corn with him because we were going to talk about whether or not a woman in Canada could wear a hijab. And I asked the Muslim girl who was working with me, she's very devout, I said, how do you feel about it? She said, in Canada, where it's freedom of religion, this is how I show my devotion, I want to be able to wear it. So I said on the show, you know, I don't know from Muslim, but I do know a Muslim girl, and her feeling was don't prevent me as long as it's safe. You know, she's not in a role where it would block her vision or whatever. Don't prevent me from wearing it. And he said, you're a racist. And I said, well, I think that's totally unfair because I literally tried not to make an assumption based on my own narrow viewpoint. I tried to ask and find out. And what his point was, because we argued, if you've ever met Tarek, all the way to the parking lot, was that because he feels so passionately for the plight of young Muslim girls, he thinks that when a woman like myself, who should be, you know, I guess advocating for other women, buys into that cultural thing, that I'm actually oppressing them somehow. I don't want to paraphrase him, it was a long argument, but and I see his viewpoint on it. And so you're saying that it's a recent thing and it's a cultural thing, and I guess just to bring it back to you, because as you can see, these conversations go all over the place, Andrea, is this the kind of stuff that you've dealt with in Mumstown? Has it come up? Is it something that you ever see coming on the horizon, or do you guys sort of stay partly bubbled and deal more with issues that are more immediate?
Before she answers, if you retweeted what Laura said, did your group have anything to say about that? That's even more specific.
I don't think that.
Oh, about my blog, you mean, about Shafia?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's any harm in a mother having an opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any harm in a mother standing
God
up.
forbid mothers don't have opinions. We're raising the next adult.
Absolutely, or discussing delicate issues,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that we want to encourage moms to do. And not that either one mom has to be right or wrong. It's just more or less we provide an inclusive environment for moms to have those conversations, and it's a safe place to talk about things that, you know, I've had moms who have indicated that they don't feel that they've been able to be themselves anywhere but Mumstown. Right? And that's not only because it's an anonymous website, because we see each other offline and we interact with each other and we talk. I think it's because when you're online, you can share ideas that you may not have the true ability to develop when you're in that social context. So you share them, and then when you see one another in real life, you actually know one another better, then you would probably know some friends that you've known for
I
a
felt
really
like I
long
knew
time.
you for years. You don't look anything like your Twitter profile pic. You look much younger in person, so I didn't recognize you when you came
Oh,
in.
then my husband's right. I need a new Twitter
No,
profile.
you really
pic.
do. You really look totally different. But I felt like I knew you because at different points we've had, lots of little, maybe every couple of days we'll exchange something on Twitter about it. But you know what? You paint, this is not an infomercial for Momstown. I had you on here because I think it's just fascinating that you want to expand the conversation to mums about other things, which is something I'd never seen before. And I know Nicole McIntyre at Spectator is kind of on the mum beat, as Lauren said. And I checked with Nicole after you told me that, Lauren, and she said, yeah, she is.
Yes.
She's dealing with issues like that. And Nicole was incredibly open about her own postpartum depression.
It's
like
fantastic.
That article made me bawl my eyes out because in some measure, I could understand those feelings, and the bravery she had to write that was tremendous.
Yeah.
And so, between Nicole being, a career chick and putting that out there, and your willingness to promote these bigger issues to mothers instead of just where to put their crafts at the end of the morning exercises, to dealing with stuff that to me matters. I mean, sure. Creative time with your kids matters, that time with your kids matters. I try to do all that stuff, but I want my children to understand the world they live in and how they can affect it much beyond that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And so when you started doing that, I thought that is super cool. I have underestimated or misjudged this organization, and I don't know, I still think my take on the Mum Show is accurate. It sucks. Have you ever seen it, CM? Oh my God. They've got like a supermodel with 4 children sitting there telling you, yeah. Speaking of being a mom, that would be my babysitter. So I will answer this call. Seriously, it is. Career mom that I be. I need to get home to my kids. Thank you, Andrea Kovacs.
Thanks for
great
having me.
conversation. It's mumstown.com or .ca?
Momstown.ca.
Mumstown.ca. And fascinating conversation. Thanks also, Jim Davis, for contributing to that. And this is the whole cool thing about Mumstown, right? Is that these conversations, these delicate issues, as you put it, who better than the people who are shaping the next generation than to be having them? And I love the support thing too. And if there was a Dad's Town, Lauren would be a charter member. Are you sure, Lauren, you can't channel the sweeter dad side of you and start Dad's Town, Hamilton? Your 25 events a year would be fun.
Those days are well past me.
The boy's still living with you. Come on. Thank you so
A
much.
month,
Andy.
Laura.
What's that? Oh, 25 a month?
Yes.
A month?
We're very busy.
Wow, Lauren should not host 25 parties a month. He would not
Absolutely.
live through it.
There's
Wow, a
something
month?
almost every day for a mom to come on.
That is
Chats in the Lair is a Power Group production. Visit us at powergroup.ca or laircast.com, or check us out on Facebook and follow us on
Thanks so
Twitter.
much, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks for having me.
I gotta get home. Oh, there it is.